The Legend of the Watermelon. Once upon a time, in the reign of Hong King the 17th, Vietnam had many high mountains, large rivers, but did not have many fields. Flowers and fruits were not as diverse as they are now. The king had an adopted son named An Tiem, who was exceptionally skillful and intelligent. The king loved An Tiem so much that he usually granted him a lot of precious things and delicacies. Everyone always treasured and praised the favors and the gifts given by the king, except An Tiem. He said, "Only things made by yourself are worthy. Gifts are worries, presents are debts." He always worked hard and did not expect to receive anything from the king. Some dishonest courtiers who had envied An Tiem for a long time took advantage of what he said to backbit An Tiem with the king. The king was very angry. He said, "Let me see. Will he be able to survive if he only relies on himself?" Thus, the king had his soldiers rush to An Tiem's house and escort his whole family to a boat without letting them bring along anything. An Tiem had to beg humbly again and again until they allowed him to bring a blunt sword for self-protection. Wind filled the sails, and the boat lurched and floated slowly to the sea. White sand and green trees on the land were gradually out of sight. The trace of inhabitants was no longer seen. There were only the blue color of the sky and the sea. Next day, the boat reached a small island. The soldiers left An Tiem's family on the island with a supply of food enough for 5 days only and a small pot, then returned to the mainland. Mrs. Ba, An Tiem's wife, held her children in her arms, looking at the boat slowly floating away with her tearful eyes. When she looked back at the desert island, she was anxious even more. She did not have the faintest idea how their life would be on this island. However, An Tiem calmly encouraged his wife. He took her and their children to find a small cave to live temporarily. Then he took his sword and went around to discover the island. This place was absolutely desolate. There were only little spare grass and few kinds of seabirds here. He had to spend a great deal of time to seek and get some sour fruits and wild vegetables for his family. Since then, day by day, An Tiem searched for vegetables, planted fruit trees, and trapped birds, while Mrs. Ba went to the coast to catch fish and oysters. An Tiem's oldest child also followed his father to trap birds. But later on, the birds were all alert to the traps, so they avoided it. There were days when An Tiem's son could not catch any bird at all. There were a lot of fish in the sea, but there was no net to catch, and fruits were out of season. Therefore, the family's main food was still the wild vegetables planted by An Tiem. Their life was extremely tough. However, An Tiem still believed that someday things will be alright. One day, there was a bird eating on the beach. When it saw An Tiem coming, it was scared and flew away hurriedly, leaving a red piece of its food. An Tiem picked it up to see and realized that it was a small piece of a kind of melon. He thought if a bird could eat it, then man might be able to eat it as well. So he tasted it and found that it was quite sweet. He ate it up and collected the seeds. After resting for a while, he felt his stomach quenched, and that made him less hungry. He was excited and used the sword to dig a small hole on the ground and planted the seeds. A few days later, the seeds germinated. Its leaves sprouted and grew up. Its vines crept along the ground. Mrs. Ba also helped her husband look after these strange vines. They nervously watched the first flower blooming and bearing fruits. At first, the fruits were as small as little fingers. Soon, they grew to be the size of a mouse, then become bigger as a piggy. An Tiem watched them growing and growing, but he did not know when to harvest them. One early morning, they heard the sound of ravens outside. Mrs. Ba said, "This is a desert island. Ravens have never gathered here before. They are croaking loudly now. There must be something strange happening outside." When An Tiem walked out to see, the ravens had flown away, leaving a watermelon, which they had packed some holes. He brought the watermelon home, cut it open, and saw the beautiful red pulp intermixed with shining black seeds inside with a deep green rind outside. An Tiem carefully cut it into small slices for each person in his family to eat. They all praised the watermelon's sweet taste and gentle smell. Eating watermelon not only did not make their stomach hurt, but also quenched their thirst and made them feel better. At noon, An Tiem decided to let his children eat the watermelon up until they were full. The family then ran to the watermelon garden cheerfully. They picked up the dark-colored watermelons to eat and took turns till after the rest. Thenceforth, they expanded their cultivation and cared wholeheartedly for strange fruit. The watermelon plants bore very well. Their fruits became bigger and bigger. The pulps grew thicker, and the rinds were thinner, and the taste became even sweeter. Every time An Tiem harvested the watermelon, he picked some of them to carve his name on and drop them into the sea. The watermelons were drifted without leaving a trace again and again, but An Tiem did not give up. As expected, one day there was a boat dropping by to ask about the precious watermelon, and the boat's owner wanted to exchange something for these watermelons to bring them back and sell on the mainland. Since then, An Tiem could exchange the watermelons for food and was finally able to build a small thatched house. As for Hung King, from the day he exiled An Tiem to the desert island, he thought that An Tiem had died. Sometimes, when he remembered pushing An Tiem to death, he felt regretful, until one day his servant offered him a strange melon. The king liked it and asked about its origin, and was informed that the watermelon was planted on the island by An Tiem. He reflected on his mistake, then sent a boat to the island to take An Tiem's family home. An Tiem and Mrs. Ba were so happy. They collected all the ripe watermelons and seeds to take them home to share with their neighbors. They also taught their neighbors how to cultivate and fertilize the plant. That was the origin of the watermelon which we eat nowadays. Afterwards, there were watermelons all over Vietnam, but people say that only watermelon planted in Nga Sơn district were the most delicious because this place used to be the island where An Tiem had lived before. After thousands years being dry and extended with sand, the island had incorporated with land.